Hello everyone and welcome to Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. This week coming to you from the state of Mississippi. On the show this time, we visit an agritourism farm in South Mississippi.
I hope it affects them through the rest of their life, that they always look back and remember that they toured a farm and they understand where their food and clothes come from.
We have a story about an educational exhibit that teaches kids about agriculture.
Kids see anything from barnyard animals to crops grown in the field to horticulture, things that are grown in their garden. They see things from the forest industry. They see anything to do with toys that they play with on a daily basis and how those are important, how agriculture is important to those.
We take a look at unmanned aerial vehicles and how they will impact farmers.
There's actually three parts to these things. There's the vehicle, and then there's the ground station, the computer that communicates with them and controls them and collects the imagery. And then there's the pilot, which is a large part.
Plus, we'll have our Meet a Farmer segment and our Mississippi on the Menu segment with Nancy Freeman. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
For dinner tonight. You know, this is a simple way to fix catfish.
Every year, more and more consumers are taking advantage of the bounty of products grown by farm families of Mississippi.
It's important to me that I feed my family affordable, wholesome produce. We're blessed that in the U.S., we pay only a fraction of our income for much better quality food than other countries. I know I'm feeding my family healthy meals and saving money.
The farm families of Mississippi, feeding Mississippi and the world.
People have become more interested in how their food is produced. They want to meet farmers and processors and talk with them about what goes into food production. For many people who visit farms, especially children, the visit marks the first time they see the source of their food, be it a dairy cow, an ear of corn growing in a field, or a pumpkin they can pick right off the vine. Rita Seward and her family operate Seward Farms near Loosedale in southeast Mississippi. On the farm, they raise 1,200 acres of cotton, 2,600 acres of peanuts, and over 4,200 head of cattle, and their farm has spilled over into Pearl River, Harrison, and Hancock counties. But it's the agritourism operation that has people buzzing.
It's 10 acres and it is Seward Farms Corn Maze. We opened in 2002, trying to educate children on where their food and clothes come from.
Many of the children that come here with their families or on field trips are not familiar with what goes on a farm.
Most of them, this is their first opportunity to ever come to a farm. They're city kids. Some come from rural school areas, but mostly they come out of town and they do not have a clue. Walmart for groceries or clothes or department stores. They learn a lot here.
When they first get off the bus, they move into a small building where they hear a presentation from a real farmer.
The kids are brought in, they're given an education on where their food and clothes come from, ask a lot of questions about what we grow, cotton, peanuts, or corn.
After that, there are dozens of activities for the kids to do.
You can go through the cornfield or the maze. You can take a hayride, ride the cow trains, shoot the corn cannons, jump on the jumping pillow. We have a farm animal alley where the kids can go and pet the animals and for a quarter buy some feed and feed them. And we also do pig races where the kids can just go and sit and watch. And we do those about on a Saturday, 3 times a day.
One of the most popular attractions is the corn maze, which takes a lot of preparation to set up.
We pick out a design and it's put on a grid and it's cross-planted, and then the design is marked off, and then we have someone come out and cut it out when it's about 6 inches tall, and then from there it grows.
Rita has been involved with Farm Bureau for over 45 years.
My father-in-law helped organize the Farm Bureau in Jackson County. Harry Seward, Mr. Schaefer Arsaw, and Mr. Ed Broadnax was the 3 main people that organized Farm Bureau years ago. We've been involved in Farm Bureau. My husband was a young farmer. My son come along and he participated in the Young Farmer. Now I'm on several of the commodity committees.
But what Rita really enjoys is the effect their farm has on the lives of the kids that come through.
I hope it affects them through the rest of their life, that they always look back and remember that they toured a farm and they understand where their food and clothes come from. That it's not just bought from a department store or from a grocery store. That it's got to come from somewhere before it's processed. If you eat, you're involved in agriculture. And that's what we're trying to get across to the whole United States.
As you have seen, there are many farms across the state and nation that bring people to the farm to experience farm life. But two innovative women in Northeast Mississippi have taken farm education a step further. The event is called FARMtastic. It was the idea of Extension Agent Julie White and County Farm Bureau Women's Chair Nelda Starks.
FARMtastic is a hands-on agriculture education program for third graders that Nelda and I created for Oktibbeha County originally, and it has expanded to the Golden Triangle. Kids see anything from barnyard animals to crops grown in the field to horticulture, things that are grown in their garden. They see things from the forest industry. They see anything to do with toys that they play with on a daily basis and how those are important, how agriculture is important to those. Their first stop is in the barnyard, where they experience all of the animals that you would typically see on a farm here in Mississippi.
The students get to see what it's like to milk a cow, and then they get to take some of that milk and make butter. They see a variety of animals, including cattle, pigs, goats, sheep, and horses. But their favorite is the baby chicks. FARMtastic is divided into different rooms, and the kids spend about 15 minutes in each room. After the barnyard animals, they move to the mighty crops.
And here they get to see the crops that are grown in Mississippi, particularly cotton, corn, and soybeans. We also have sweet potatoes and peanuts there. They do a bean dig where they dig for bean products. At the corn station, they pin the ear on the corn. And then the cotton station, they get to see cotton being ginned. The sweet potatoes and the peanuts, they get to the exposure to those underground crops that they don't think about where they come from. And then in the wheat station, we're actually giving them a pancake.
The next station is called Wonder Plants.
In Wonder Plants, they come in and they do a paw print that is a bully paw. From there, their class will actually plant 3 different types of winter crops that they can actually take back to their classrooms and grow. Then they do a worm dig where they actually get to dig in the soil and dig for worms. Then we also have somebody there talking about soil and why it is important to agriculture. Then they move to the pollinators where they learn about why bees and other insects are important to agriculture. Then they learn about the garden and how we grow crops in our gardens at different times of year and how those make it from the garden to our plates.
After that, the kids enter the enchanted forest.
They come into a forest area, the first thing they get is a tree cookie. And that's not an edible cookie. That is a cookie made out of a tree that's cut into a slice. And we use that for their name tag. They get to write their name on it and wear it around their neck, so that's their name tag for the day. They get to count the rings on stumps so they can see what the age of a tree is. They get to see a Christmas tree and they relate that to the fact that it is grown in a forest.
The favorite station for most kids is the one called Farm Toys.
This year we decided to add farm toys because we wanted the kids to see why it is important to have agriculture involved in football, baseball, basketball, golf, fishing, and last but not least, the horse arena. And so they come into that station and they learn about why agriculture is important to each of those sports that they usually participate in, and then they get a chance to play each of those sports while they're in that room.
The last stop is called the marketplace.
So we want them to realize that everything they buy in the grocery store, at the department store, the hardware store, the automotive shop, all of those stores that are in a town have something to do with agriculture. We also put a school there because we wanted them to make sure that because their crayons and glue and other products that they use daily, paper, come from agriculture, we want them to know that everything they use in their daily lives comes from that. We have a farmer's market set up in the middle of the stop so they can see fresh vegetables and canned goods and things like that. We also included a Farm Bureau building and an extension office there so they can relate to where agriculture information comes from.
FARMtastic started off as a one-county effort. but now has blossomed into a traveling exhibit. For their efforts, Julie and Nelda were presented with Farm Bureau's Ag Ambassador Award at last year's state convention. We'll be right back after these messages.
The safety of our food is something we take for granted, and there are inspections that guarantee the food we put on our dinner tables is safe. Always read country of origin labels to ensure that fish, seafood, or produce is grown in the U.S., preferably Mississippi.
The health of your family is important. Be an informed consumer. Be sure you purchase safe, nutritious food products.
The farm families of Mississippi, growing safe, nutritious food.
Most of us know about drones or unmanned aircraft being used in war zones to deliver bombs or for surveillance purposes. But this technology has been moving ahead at warp speed in the last few years outside the military, and it has the potential for great benefits, but also great concerns. The average size of a farm in the United States in 1900 was less than 150 acres. Farmers were able to monitor the needs of their crop without much difficulty. But as time went on, farms expanded, making the job of looking after the crop much more challenging. Today, the average size of a farm is nearly 4 times what it was back then, and some farms are thousands of acres in size. Because of that, farmers have had to find new ways to get the information they need about their crop, and they must use advanced technology to do it. That's where the drones, as the public likes to call them, come in.
We prefer the term unmanned air systems, aerial systems, because there's actually 3 parts to these things. There's the vehicle, and then there's the ground station, the computer that communicates with them and controls them and collects the imagery. And then there's the pilot, which is a large part. It's not unmanned. There is a man on the ground, it's just that he's not in the cockpit. They are being used for agriculture, and there's a lot of work going on for several reasons. With crop stands, when the crop first comes up, plant stand counts, because you can fly so low with these and you can get 1/8 of a pixel resolution. You can detect when that crop's coming up and how that crop's coming up very early on, much earlier, so the farmer can get back out there and replant if there's been a frost or a freeze.
The aircraft flies a set pattern over a field, taking pictures all the way. The pictures are then loaded into a computer with software that stitches the pictures together to make one huge mosaic picture of the whole field.
The technology really is mostly based on pattern matching. So it takes the images and sees how they overlay or match. So it matches key points automatically in frames. Their software now, you can just take all the images and throw it at it and it'll make the mosaic. Some ways you can be smarter about it if you have oblique images. For example, when the plane banks, the images are oblique. They're kind of stretched. If you look at your plane parameters and throw those out, that can be done somewhat automatically, and don't use those images, you'll get a better mosaic. It's pretty inexpensive software, and it's been around for a while.
So this makes it very easy for a farmer to monitor thousands of acres of his farm without ever having to leave the farm office. It means you have eyes on the crop. You can understand if you have a disease problem, a drought issue, an insect infestation, or a nutrient deficiency. But here's the problem. The Federal Aviation Administration controls the airspace and the things that fly through it. The FAA traditionally had policies allowing hobbyists to fly models lower than 400 feet, but using drones professionally, like a farmer monitoring his crop, would be illegal. They wanted to limit the number of drones in the air because with the cost of drones continuing to drop, the sheer number of these unmanned vehicles in the sky would be a huge concern for commercial and professional air traffic safety. Filmmakers, farmers, and others are all eager for the opportunity to use the drones, so the FAA has a huge challenge on its hands.
Congress said there will be model aircraft and you're to let them be model aircraft. In my world, in some ways, I have an issue with the fact that you can buy anything you want as a hobbyist as long as it's below 55 pounds total weight. You fly it below 400 feet, you keep it within line of sight, you fly during daylight hours, and you don't sell your services or your product. Lots of people are getting away with lots of illegal activity, and what the FAA is really trying to concentrate on is education and the really dangerous things like flying some of these quadcopters in metropolitan areas over large crowds. They're trying to educate that You know, those are manufactured objects. They are consumer grade. They will fail, and there is a safety issue there.
So the great unknown is what kind of regulations the FAA will eventually impose. The rules are due out later this year. Until then, there is a need to train people in the use of this technology. Hines Community College in Raymond launched a program 2 years ago to teach students to use this technology when it becomes available for commercial use.
And me being associated with agriculture and loving aviation and involved in aviation, I said there's going to be opportunity. So started developing process and programs for that. And my relationship with the school here has been ongoing for a number of years. And we knew that when this really did roll out in a commercial way, that there's going to be a huge demand for operators of these vehicles. And there's nowhere to train. There's nowhere that we could, you can't go and just sign up on the street corner for doing this. It's pretty specialized. So the school, Hines Community College, being a progressive institution that it is, forward-thinking with an active aviation department. We have 141 Flight School, we have an A&P Technician School, we have other aviation programs. It was a natural fit for Hines Community College to adapt and adopt this technology into their program and train the operators of the future for this technology.
Basically, we're learning how to use UAVs for commercial use. It could be for military contracting, or it could be for agricultural use. But either way, there's much use that these unmanned aerial vehicles can be used for. So we're just learning every aspect that we can take advantage of once it's legalized for commercial use.
Most everyone understands that unmanned aerial vehicles have a bright future in the state. Right now, though, the question is when that technology will be allowed. We'll be right back after this timeout. Stay with us.
So, do you have a vested interest in Mississippi agriculture? You bet you do.
From the cotton shirt you put on this morning to the eggs, bacon, and grits you had for breakfast, you're tied to Mississippi agriculture. The next construction or repair project you plan could include lumber grown, harvested, and finished right here in Mississippi.
When you really think about it, you're much closer to the farm families of Mississippi than you thought.
The Farm Families of Mississippi, growing and building Mississippi's future.
In our Meet a Farmer segment, we head to the Mississippi Delta and we visit with a young couple that raises catfish.
Well, what we raise is a hybrid catfish, which is a cross between a channel and a blue cat. Normally we start somewhere in the mid-March to early April, depending on how the weather is reacting. That's when we start out stocking, and we use a 7-inch fish at the smallest, and we usually stock around 8,500 to 9,000 head per acre. You know, we start them out there, you know, they steadily grow throughout the season.
And why we chose to raise hybrids versus a channel cat is they say that hybrids are not as susceptible to diseases and they grow faster, where traditionally it would take us almost 2 years to grow a channel cat out. We get these off in what, 8 months,
A regular
months.
channel cat takes anywhere between 18 to 24 months from the time it's put in the water. With the hybrid, we can put in the spring and sell out that fall.
So we single crop every year.
Missy takes charge of feeding the fish every day.
I come to the fish farm and I turn tractors off. Around 10:30 I start, I feed the catfish every day. I don't have a set amount of pounds that I feed a day. I just go along with the fish. I can tell how they're acting, or they tell me when they're full.
The McGlawns are in the process of converting some of their ponds into a split pond system.
I took 3 traditional 12-acre ponds and turned the front end of the pond into 3 2-acre ponds. Then they have a partition that runs down through the middle of them, and we have a screw pump in each pond that transfers 10,000 gallons per minute of water. And all the fish are in each 2-acre pond, basically considered a holding area. And what we use the rest of the water for in the back of the pond is considered a waste treatment. The water stays a lot cleaner. It does not get the algae, the bloom buildup in it.
Chris also runs a custom seining business.
We take a 10-foot net and we custom harvest the ponds and get the fish out and sent to the processors. At the peak of the industry, I covered around 3,000 acres of water, all the way far south as Yazoo City to as far north as Clarksdale. And I think the best year I've ever had, we harvested around 15 million pounds. And up to today, the catfish industry has gotten a little bit smaller. So we're down to probably around 2,000 acres of water that we cover.
In 2010, they decided to start row crop farming.
We started out our first year basically farming just corn and soybeans. A little challenging the first year, getting used to everything, learning a new business, but been very successful in it over the past few years. Learned a lot, made a lot of changes on our operation from where we started. I'm trying to keep up with the commercial landforming business. I do commercial landforming, so I run 2 tractors all the time, and I have a third that when I have time, I go run it. So we run a 24-yard bucket and a 17-yard, and I run the 20-foot Namco finish scraper. They're all equipped with a GPS control system.
This is my passion. This is what I truly, besides being a mother, that I think, this is what I love to do. We started this 7 years ago together, and this was our first business that we started, and this is our life. I wouldn't do anything else. I'm proud to be a catfish farmer, and we love it.
The McGlawns have 2 children, 7-year-old Reese and Anna Rivers, who is 6. Now it's time for our Mississippi on the Menu segment with our home economist, Nancy Freeman.
Mississippi farm-raised catfish. It's what's for dinner tonight. This is a simple way to fix catfish that your family will enjoy, but you need to make sure when you go to the market to look for farm-raised catfish. Because there's a lot of inferior fish in our markets, you want to be sure the catfish you're getting is safe, been raised to high standards, and is safe for your family to eat. So again, look for that grown in the USA, raised in Mississippi labels. All right, let's take a look at our catfish. I've got a simple fillet here that we're going to be using. It's a nice one, about a ½ pound on this particular one. And I'm going to make a really nice little sauce that goes with. This is buttermilk. One of those treats that maybe your grandmother used to use. It's nice to have. I'm adding a little bit of cayenne pepper. If you want to, you can add a little bit of Tabasco sauce or other types of hot sauce. A little oregano, some garlic salt. And notice I said garlic salt, so if you want to cut out a little bit of salt, you can always just use garlic powder instead of the salt. We're going to stir this up. Oh, this is going to make such a good flavorful coating to put on our catfish. And catfish is a great thing for our state's economy. We have $178 million worth of value in our catfish in the year 2013 for the state of Mississippi. So be sure, again, to look for that farm-raised catfish. It's good for our local economy. We're going to take our filet, put it in here. We're going to dip it over a little bit. And then I have a coating top that we're going to be using. This is corn flakes and pecans. And all I've done is crushed them up a little bit in a bag that we can have them. We're going to coat this very easily. Make sure we get a nice tasty coating. And this is a great way to use catfish instead of doing a traditional fried catfish. A nice healthy recipe for your family. And let me tell you, when you get that toasted pecan crust on there, it's going to be delish. You put it on a full covered pan. We're going to put this in our oven. We're going to bake it for about 30 minutes, and it's going to come out delicious and flaky. Check our website at growingmississippi.org for this catfish recipe, as well as wonderful facts about our catfish farmers here in Mississippi.
We invite you to learn more about Mississippi agriculture and its importance to your daily life. Visit www.growingmississippi.org. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Voices of Agriculture. We hope you've enjoyed the show and will be with us again next time. For all of us here at the Mississippi Farm Bureau, thanks for watching.